We're here.
You're.
Every time.
We're confused between the boom.
No, it's boom, bro. Well, at least it's boom.
I like boom.
It's boom for individual monologues.
Okay, we can go boom.
Or and with guests. Well, you guys are in my space right now. This is my world.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I'm just kidding.
Did you start a website and get a bunch of high schoolers?
No, I have my fans only.
Oh, okay.
And this is where this will get premium content for my fans only. Fans only makes more sense. It says it's only fans, but anyway. All right, we're here. Jesse's here.
I am here.
But we have a friend, a good friend. We have Patrick. What's your last name?
Patrick Brady.
Patrick Brady. You're right. I'm just fucking with you. Like I said, or like I've said previously, we have a number of, experiences represented. And Patrick has an interesting recovery experience that we haven't heard here. That the healing process isn't linear. So I'm going to let you kind of share your background, and then we can get into like pop culture and social things and just chat it up.
Cool, man. Cool.
All right, so what's up?
First off, I'd like to say it's an honor to be here and to be here on your show. I'm a little nervous. This is my first podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be nervous.
You got the headphones on, the microphone, and camera, but I'm just super grateful to be here. This is awesome.
Bro.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you're here, man.
I'm a Cali boy, man. I grew up in San Diego. I had a pretty decent childhood. I recently just got out of treatment, too. My sobriety date is April 11th, 2020. And
it's a great day.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
That's my birthday.
Hey.
Oh, what?
April, let's go.
Hey.
Boy. I didn't know that worked out like that. That's awesome.
All right, man. Well, I don't even know how many days I have. I'm not really good with math, but
Couple months.
While I was up in treatment, they really kind of dove into my childhood, and man, for the longest time, especially in recovery, I would always start out if I ever was a speaker or something, I'd always start out with, I had a great childhood, and I wanted for nothing, and I just so happened to become a drug addict. Well, I kind of dove more into like what happened in my past, and bottom line is I didn't have the best childhood. Yeah, material wise, I always had nice clothes to wear at school. I played sports. I never went hungry. I always had a roof over my head, but I didn't have a stable family. My parents were always getting divorced. My mom would always have a new boyfriend coming around, and it just seemed like it was very uncertain. I always had like an uncertainty going on with my childhood, and learning that up in treatment, it kind of gives me a little bit more clarity to kind of understand like why I am the way I am.
I think that's really like powerful stuff too. Like being able to look back objectively and see, because I know for me when I was younger, I always had this comparative like thing where I was comparing like my friends and their families versus my family, and like the material stuff, thinking that was what it was about. You know what I mean? But like, it's not really all about that stuff. Like that stuff is awesome growing up, like having the things and stuff, but like having the love in the family or having the attention, like that stuff weighs more than just the material stuff.
And I also want to honor my parents too. I do not want to throw them under the bus.
Yeah, for sure.
I received nothing but love. Right? I was never abused. I was never molested. I was always taken care of. I was always sought after. I received tons of attention. But at the same time, there were a lot of things that I look back on and it was like, hey, you know what? I ain't gonna raise my kid that way.
Yeah. That's what my parents said the same thing.
Yeah.
And we're all traumatizing our kids in different ways. My parents gave me all the love, but now I have a codependent relationship with my parents and a comparative relationship to my dad. And there's always going to be stuff. Yeah. And I'm really like raising my own kids. I'm like, I'm going to traumatize them differently. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like hopefully a little bit less and hopefully in different, and not to repeat certain things that I experienced. But every person you talk to is like, has a weird thing with their parents. And generally, like my experience is generally very positive. You know what I mean? But it's like, okay, this is a thing. So the goal is to like change the things your parents did, but you're gonna fuck them up in there.
Well, just make it a tiny bit better. Like fucking centimeter.
That's all you can do, really, because you have your own stuff, you know, and that'll come up when you're in a long-term relationship, and when you have kids, all of your shit is exposed. And sometimes, as humans, we're gross, and sometimes like we're our best, and sometimes we're our worst, and your family is there through all of those things, you know, through depressions and anxiety and stress from work and. You know, this and that, and, you know, then your kids are fucking terrorizing you. It's like, you're not always shiny, you know? Sometimes I suck, you know?
Yeah, and I don't plan on, you know, being some perfect dad or perfect husband. You know I'm going to make mistakes, you know, when that day comes. To get a little bit more specific about what I'm talking about, I would have to say, you know, I didn't grow up in the church. You know, I grew up very worldly, you know. It wasn't until later when I got saved at 21, I'm 30 now. It wasn't until I started to, my worldview changed, you know, and all of a sudden, all these things that were once acceptable to me and, how do I put it? I was okay with committing, you know. Now all of a sudden it's like, wow, you know, I'm convicted about these things. You know, I can't just do them with impunity. I feel bad about these things that I'm doing. And that's actually what gave me the desire to get sober, you know. I'm what you would call a high bottom drunk or a high bottom drug addict. I didn't lose everything. I always had a job. I always showed up to work. My life was definitely unmanageable, that's for sure. You know, if someone has to take heroin before they go to work, you know, something's a little wrong.
I think you got it going pretty well, you know, when you're
killing it
just to get to work.
But it wasn't like I had nowhere to go. You know, I had tons of bridges to cross, and honestly, I had a lot of opportunities to screw over a lot more people. Thank God I didn't. You know, and like you said, recovery is not linear, I believe.
Yeah.
And I am a relapser. I've been trying to get sober for almost 10 years now. And I think the longest time I've ever had was a year and 9 months, something like that. And I get 6 months here, I get 3 months here, sometimes 30 days, and I just continue to relapse, you know. This time around, it feels good, you know. It feels kind of like every other time. And I actually had a really scary thought the other day. I just got done surfing. It was a beautiful session out at Ocean Beach, and I'm walking back. The sun had just set, and I was passing by this house that, you know, you hear the hip hop, you hear the beer glasses, you know. I was like, oh man, that sounds like a lot of fun, you know. And it's like, I really don't like that feeling, the desire to want to drink, you know. I really don't like that feeling, but I think it's one of those things I'm just gonna have to accept, you know. It's probably always gonna be a problem for me. The program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the values that Christ has brought, it's not magic that's gonna completely remove temptation from your life. You know, it's always going to be a reality. And I think a lot of it has to do with what you put in, you know, the action in the program. Are you doing the steps? Are you, you know, being of service? Are you thinking more about others than you are yourself? You know, that's what's really going to keep me spiritually fit. And when I look back on all my relapses, it's clear. I was not spiritually fit at that moment, and it crept up on me, and you know, I relapsed, you know, and I paid the price for it. You know, I don't blame anyone. I take full ownership of everything. At the same time, I don't want to kind of dwell on the past. You know, life's pretty good today, man. I'm super grateful for the position that I am in, to have the career that I have, and the friends that I have. I'm so blessed. It's unbelievable, and I know I don't deserve it. You know, it's great. God is good, man. God is good.
Rad.
Well, you gonna say something?
Oh, I was gonna just say, like, it's so cool that to see that change in you, and also to see, like, the same circumstances 4 months ago seem like shitty, and then like a change in perspective makes it like you're blessed. You know what I mean? So it's really cool that that's like the thing that we get to experience. It's like things don't change so much around us, but like our personal fucking worldview changes, or you know, our perception changes, and it just like makes everything amazing.
Yeah, we've talked about it on our podcast a number of times that the drug addict, alcoholic, or addict of any sort, we have a certain humility that we feel, a certain desperation that we feel allows us to be grateful for the just peace, or just to surf, or just to have friends. You know what I mean? Some people like have always had friends. Some people have always had a good job. Some people have so, you know, there's a lot of discontentment in a lot of people's lives. But, you know, I know for myself, the life that I have like blows my mind. I don't have a very special life, but it trips me out to live the life because I had nothing before. So we're very, in that sense, we're very lucky to experience that, because just being in a place of appreciation and gratitude generally, about life generally, you know what I mean? Because of course you're like, I have a car, like there's, you know, this very direct things, but just like, I'm happy to be alive. You know what I mean? That's an awesome feeling, and we're lucky to have that. It's perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
know?
Quality of life.
Yeah.
And that's what sobriety brings, you know, is quality of life. You know, I'm not just existing, I'm actually living, you know. And the opportunity that sobriety gives you to help other people is unbelievable. You know, Father Joseph Martin, he's this old Catholic priest that was an alcoholic. He has these great videos on YouTube, and he says, get sober and you will pray for a 29-hour day. There's too many people to help. And I've come to find that is true, you know. Not every day, you know, a lot of days I'm wishing for, you know, more hours in the day so I can go to the gym and, you know, go have dinner with my friends. But a lot of the times I see that, man, I wish I had more time to, you know, go to a meeting and help set up a meeting, or you know, take a newcomer through the steps, you know. It's hard. There's not enough time in the day, you know.
Yeah.
You got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, man. So, so something that is interesting with the cultural climate, you know, it's because we're sober people, we get to know all kinds of people, and you know, because of me being sober, I've gotten to become family member with people who think differently than I. And whenever you, Jesse, and myself get together, we have interesting political and ideological conversations, and we don't agree on certain things. And that's a good thing. You know, a friend of mine did the podcast and said he learned that no idea in his mind was so precious it couldn't withstand criticism. You know, so like, you know, I have my beliefs, so I'm like, I think this is the way. You know, you may believe something different, and I could still really like you as a person. And I feel like we're far away from that in a lot of regards, not us, but people culturally. So I just want to we'll throw an overlying general question. What's your thoughts on the state of what's going on right now?
Oh man, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good. It doesn't sit well with me. You know, we're the United States of America, and right now we're divided for sure. I think there's always been some kind of division, you know, in our country's history. However, it seems a little bit more amplified right now, and I really don't like it. You know, I wish we could find a common ground, and there could be, you know, I don't know, some compromise. You know, it's a really ugly situation, and I think it is fueled by extremes on both sides, you know. And when I say both sides, you know, the right and the left, you know, if we're going to be talking about politics, you know. Yeah, I mean, you got extremes on both sides that have an agenda, and it does not serve the country's best interest at heart. It serves their own best interest at heart with their desires, you know, whether they want money, power, or sex, they are motivated, you know, for their own gain, you know, and it isn't about the common prosperity of the United States. It's about their own thing that they got going on. Yeah, man, I don't know. Honestly, Eric, I'm not really up to date with a lot. I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
If everything that I do know is kind of hearsay, you know, if I'm talking to another friend about it, yeah, I don't know.
I think it's very common for people to like to just hear on the periphery. You know what I mean? People are like, I'm not watching the news and all, or doing anything like that. And I think the polarization, the extremes on both sides, and then the disillusionment that people feel where they don't even pay attention is kind of by design. You know, we're in a situation where how many people are just not going to vote? They're like, I hate Biden, and Biden sucks, and Trump sucks, so I'm not going to vote for either one. And either, you know, someone else in power is going to be in charge, and we're not in charge. And I think that's ultimately what people want, what they want. I'm trying to use that.
I think it's a really interesting point. Like, it's easier to pass false information or propagandize when people aren't like that interested in whatever's going on, because then it's like, oh well, it's like the game of telephone. Like your friend hears a thing, then their friend tells it to them, and then all of a sudden now like Trump's a Nazi, or on the vice versa. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just goes. Well, I didn't mean to do that. It goes so quickly because it's like hearsay, it's fake news, you know, misinformation, whatever. So I know something that's came across me more recently, I guess since like this new election cycle, was really getting interested in the shit.
Yeah.
And like actually like I've just been really like wanting to know more and all sides of the equation and try to hear other opinions and other sides, you know, because all of a sudden I'm just really interested in what's happening in our country.
Yeah.
And it takes work, man. It takes like some research. It takes like questioning my values. It takes like
kind of tiring.
Do I think this is bias, even if it's like what I wanted to hear, you know? So it's a lot of extra work. But I think it's important for us as the United States to start digging in a little bit more and like really be getting honest with like certain things.
Yeah, and to stay vigilant, because we have the numbers, and I think people forget. It's like, you know, even though this democracy, like the more you look into it, you realize the democracy wasn't meant for all of us to participate in. It just wasn't built that way. But now we have this system where we can all participate and have things go at least more the way we'd like to go. Because, you know, I feel like even when I'm an Obama fan, you know, and even when Obama was president, I feel like nothing was going the way I wanted it to go, though. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel like he felt like what was like the bailout. It's like, okay, you just put all the tax burden on me and my family. Like the economy's better, but I don't dig that. You know what I mean? Why don't you charge
more
them?
wars?
Yeah, more wars. Like I don't want that either. And there's just it's almost like popularity contest. Like you root for your guy and they don't do anything that you need. And during this time, for me, I feel generally inspired to like participate and to stay informed and to inform others and have those conversations on this podcast. And because this is our responsibility to participate. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like you said, it's Team America, right? Like it's Team America. And even if people fundamentally disagree, I take it like as a responsibility to like, hey, I got to figure out how to work with you, even in my own little sphere of influence and in the voting booth. You know, I don't think it should be all Democrat either. Mm-hmm. I think, you know what I mean? I think people are like...
well, Democrats fucking suck. Let me get that on the table.
Exactly.
Republicans suck as well. Like, they both... Just the idea and, like, what the party structure is, so many Democrats suck, so many Republicans suck. There's very few on either side that actually are speaking for the people or trying to affect like positive change. Yeah. Everyone else is just going along because, oh, well, I'm blue, so you're blue and let's fuck this country over. Yeah. Oh, I'm red and you're red. All right, like let's cut taxes. Like, yeah.
And it's more of a corporatist democracy.
Yeah, it really is.
You know, it's like
Wait, in '09, when or '08, or when they bailed out the banks, that was what Matthias was talking about over at our place. Corporate socialism.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
it is now. You know, and they're basically delaying the inevitable, and they're kicking the can down the road, and it's tomorrow's problem. And quite frankly, it's irresponsible. You know, and it's unequitable. You know, it's not fair to the American people. You know, maybe if we didn't do that, you know, we would have gone through a depression. But hey, man, we need to not be so spoiled, I think. You know, maybe we need to go through a really difficult time as a country and toughen up, you know. And I'll speak for myself on this one. I am spoiled. I'm a spoiled American. And I think that is a huge root cause to my drug and alcohol problem, you know.
Entitlement.
I don't know if I'd say entitlement, but more so pleasure. I'm all about pleasure. I want to feel good all the time, and I don't ever want to. I honestly don't want to work hard for anything. You know, it honestly took me to going into a construction job to really learn the value of a dollar.
Yeah, and
you know, my entire life I've just been, you know, just given everything that I wanted or needed, and where was I going on this? Okay. So delayed gratification and actually, like, being grateful for what I have. You know, that is what I don't want a Great Depression. You know what I mean? I don't want it. However, I think it may be necessary for the preservation of the United States. You know, to kind of shift our perspective and change the attitude that we have as Americans. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, you know?
Well, I think that's an interesting perspective. And as you were saying that, I started thinking about like the last depression or the Great Depression and what happened after that. And I do think this is like a new thought that just came to me, so I haven't really put in much effort on it, but I do think like since the Great Depression and like World War II and like everything since then, like we've kind of been like, yo, we're the shit and no one can touch us.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it's coming to light that like we're also just a country. You know, we're not necessarily, we're not like the number one like across the world in every aspect. Like we're not like that anymore, you know? So I think we have to like, as a country, come together and be like, all right, like there's some shit that we're doing great. There's some shit that we're not doing so great. But we can still like turn the ship around.
Yeah.
But you know, if we just say, fuck it, like let the next generation deal with it, we're not gonna be the number one country in the world anymore.
And the idea of being the number one country, there was this Minister Farrakhan. There was this old interview with something Wallace. This old interview, and this guy talks about, you know, Nigeria being the most corrupt country ever to exist, and we're number one in ravaging the world. I see you don't agree with me.
No.
But what I say is we have more blood on our hands. We have more. We take more from other countries. We've looted other countries. Britain has done more, a little bit more, but we're the contemporary like raper and pillager of the world. So I think and a lot of Black people come from that perspective. We're like, hey, we've had this fucked up ass history here. So it's giving me kind of a grounded understanding of like what this country is about. So I don't have like this sense, I'm proud to live here and I'm proud of like the freedoms that I'm given. But I also acknowledge that America is super fucked up and it wasn't built for me to like thrive here. And it wasn't, if you understand how the structure was built, it wasn't built for the people to strive to run the show here. And it's a reflection 200 years later of the system that's in place now, where we don't run the show, where we have Mitch McConnell, who, does anybody like him? It doesn't seem like anybody really likes him.
Or Nancy
Pelosi. But they're just in charge, right? And it's like, you can say, fuck them, and they're just the motherfuckers in charge. And you're just like, but we all hate you. You know what I mean? But it's like, that's exactly how this shit was supposed to go. We're supposed, like, it's
freedom of speech.
Yeah, it's run by people. I think generally it's run by people you don't feel good about. I think that's the perspective of a lot of people, which leads to disillusionment and which leads to people lack of enthusiasm. People are not like super stoked to participate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're like, "Fuck it, man."
Well, I do want to. I think that's true. Like the fact that the people in power, or specific people that we're talking about, that a good portion of the population doesn't like them. But I do believe what you said about like how the country was first structured, how it was for like rich landowners and whatnot
rich white landowners
to participate in the political scene. But also, like, you can't really avoid like the human condition in this whole thing. Like, no matter how amazing the original Constitution could have been written, and no matter how great the Bill of Rights could have been, and no matter how many amazing laws and justice we have, there's still the human condition portion of this. And like, I mean, we know for a fact, like when you're given power, it starts to corrupt you, you know what I mean? And you're given money and fame and all these things. So like the people who have been career politicians their whole lives and have not ever like lived a normal day since they had become adults.
Yeah.
Just like immediately thrust into politics and money and like, I'm going to do you a deal here and you're going to pay me off then. And even when I get out of politics, like I'm going to have a fucking job making like 6 figures, just like lobbying and shit. Like those people are humans, and that's what happens to humans given those types of things, you know?
Yeah, it's not that they're evil, they're just people. Right, like they're just people,
and like the fact that
they're evil.
Well,
yeah. I mean, they've been corrupted, right?
Yeah, they've been. I don't think they were born like pieces of shit. You know what I mean? They're just given. You're given enough power and money, you're probably not going to be awesome. You know what I mean? You're like, even though I was just talking about a rich kid I know he just sucks. He wasn't born that way. He just has too much and he does shitty things because he has too much, and he can do that, right? He can still have opportunity and he doesn't have to be a good person, like a great dude. You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying. It does corrupt. It's not that they're inherently bad. They're just being people.
And the thing is we're people and they're people. But those people who are corrupt are now are dictating to us what's most important or what needs to happen. But that's where we have to realize, like, hey, yo, like, you're also just a person. Like, how do you know better than I know for what's good for me and my family?
And that's where the active participation.
Yeah, well, our hope is not here. You know, our hope is not here on this earth. So, I mean, no matter what, political structure we put in place or whoever we put in power, there will never be a perfect form of government. Just won't happen. That's why we're waiting for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think he's coming, dude, with the way that shit's going. I'm like, dog, what is it like in the next year or something? Jesus gonna come down and say what's up?
Yeah, shit's not doing good. But also at the same time, this is still the best time to be a human. It doesn't feel like that, but it feels like, for more people now than ever before, with all my criticism, for more people now than ever before, the world is better than it's ever been. And it's not even debatable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not even like...
Well, think about it like however many years ago, like, or in India when we're talking about the caste system. Or
exactly.
Or like these different, like, the lordships and shit. And how it used to be like, I mean, if you, like, didn't have money, you were literally, like, spit on and abused, like, constantly. And, like...
Even during slavery, for when it was bad for black people, it was bad for regular white people, too.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you were... Like, not you were, but people were sharecroppers and poor and
no opportunity.
Yeah, still didn't have. And then, like, for other ethnicities, other countries, they've gone through their terrible times, and their dictatorships and their communist regimes, and it's so right now you have more freedom to travel the world, more freedom of information, more freedom of communication, more freedom as a person of color. In this country, you can come and go as you please. Generally, as any ethnicity, you can come. You're going to deal with some bullshit along the way, but if there was no bullshit, like, that's kind of too good to be true. So, you know what I mean? There's going to be bullshit on the along the way, but we're more free at least in this country, than ever before. But you mentioned Jesus thing. And this is going to go into another topic that I don't get to speak about with people very often.
All day.
But
all day, baby.
But let's talk about. I think you might not know where I'm going. But let's talk about sex addiction and pornography.
Holla at your boy.
And your experience, because I've mentioned on here very briefly that I don't watch porn. Mm-hmm. It's because I've had a problem with porn, and I've had like Jesse has seen me in the throes of a sex addiction. Before we started this podcast, I didn't really talk about it. So share your experience and your thoughts on. And like your struggles.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. So, well, kind of back to like when I was introducing myself and talking about my childhood, that was a big part. I grew up thinking that sex was, free love, like promiscuity wasn't a problem. My parents boasted about it. I really don't like to throw my parents under the bus on a podcast, but it is what it is, They would boast about it, and I started watching porn at a really young age. Think about the first time
it was
you saw a Playboy,
like Google Images or Playboy.
The first time you saw like a Playboy, man, chemicals are just getting fired off in your brain immediately. As soon as you see boobs, you're just like, what? And then you're thinking like, well, maybe I can steal that magazine and I can stash it for later or something. And then technology just booms out of nowhere, and now we have internet porn, unlimited free access in any kind of flavor you want. I mean, it's kind of unfair, especially for guys like us who are like trying to, remove that from our lives. It's just like we're being bombarded 24/7. And people say 24/7 a lot, and it doesn't really mean 24/7. In this case, 24/7. All right, we have this thing right here that it's basically a dealer in your pocket all the time, and it's free. It's the deck is stacked against us. That's basically how I feel about it. So I grew up not thinking any of this was wrong, and I didn't even know I was addicted to it. Not hindsight's 20/20. I look back, oh yeah, I've been looking at it every day since I was 12 years old. Yeah, I think I'm addicted, And it's interesting topic because it's not talked about a lot. And it's very taboo, pornography is very, very private. People, I'm sure anyone listening to this right now is probably like, even if they're by themselves, they're like, whoa, oh man, I'm sure they're just getting uncomfortable, But I want to maybe be one of the first people to just freely talk about it. I've been addicted for a really long time, and it is kind of a shameful thing, to admit, but it's the truth, I would say for the past like 4 years, I've been legitimately struggling with it, because before then it was just like, it is what it is, I'm just going to look at it, and even when I became a Christian, I didn't, I was very ignorant to the Bible. When I was 21 and I gave my life to Christ, it was like, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. There was even a point in time in my Christian walk where I was like, dang it, why did I become a Christian, man? I can't enjoy the things that I enjoyed, and especially when it comes to sex, man. Like now, if I do hook up with a chick, or even if I'm in like a meaningful relationship and we have sex, conviction, right away, dude. And it's almost like I'm like, all right, well, I messed it up, it's done,
Oh wow,
it really is like that, man. Especially my last relationship, especially when it's another Christian girl, you just realize like, oh, dude, you blew it, bro. You blew it. And how many chances is God going to give you, it's tough, man. I don't know what it is about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's honestly a drug. It's honestly a drug.
I know.
Sex is a drug. Like the chemicals that get released in your brain when you're either watching pornography or you're making out with a girl and she likes you, you like her, and she's beautiful, and you're feeling it, man. It's an amazing feeling. And through my negative experiences, which I consider all of them to be negative experiences, because I've never been married, I've never experienced sex within the bonds of a marriage before. So I would say that every single sexual experience that I've had has been a negative one, because I'm selling myself short to what God has really wants for my life, It's, I don't know, man. It's really hard, but I have hope that the Lord will give me strength to allow me to live a life that is pleasing to Him, for sure. I just have to be more disciplined, I think, and use discernment when it comes to my relationships with other women. As far as like pornography is concerned, I'm struggling. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm not gonna be on the podcast and be like, yeah, man, I've been porn free. So and so much. It's almost like a week to week basis. There's some weeks I don't look at it at all for weeks, and then I get that craving again, and then the phenomenon of craving kicks in. You look at, I don't care if it's Google Images, just type in boobs on Google Images, all of a sudden phenomenon of craving kicks in. Next thing you know, I'm on Pornhub, Yeah. It takes like a level of, it's just like drugs, man. It takes a level of just getting beaten down. Yeah. How much conviction can I take before I'm just like, God, I can't do it. And that's the moment where I actually like will be so frustrated with life that I'm like, God, I need help, Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I find the strength to overcome that temptation. And what I've also come to find is like, God isn't a party pooper. It's not like he's leaning on his cloud and was like, I don't want Pat to have a good time. I don't want him to get laid. No, He's a good father, and he knows what's best for us. And he knows that sleeping around with chicks isn't good, Yeah. There is an actual, sex was meant to be a glue. All right. It's meant to keep the man and the woman together. And if you just go around having sex, hey, that glue still gets, that adhesive still occurs every time they have sex.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And gosh, how do I put this? So every time that I've had sex, there's a connection that occurs, and whether it's either one way or the other, either I really don't love her or she really loves me, or vice versa, or I'm in love with her and she doesn't really love me, and one of us is just using the other to satisfy our flesh. That glue hardens, and then when we separate, it tears and it leaves a wound, And I don't care if you are the one hitting it and quitting it. You're still going to hurt one way or another, Yeah. It's never fun to have your phone blow up and, text message after text message, you're still going to go through some kind of a burden, And I've experienced both sides of the coin, I've had my heart broken. I don't think there's a single thing worse in the world than being rejected, it's and terrible. Especially someone that you really care about. Oh, it's horrible. And I feel so bad talking about it because I've done it to other women before, That's why I have to ask God for forgiveness, man. I cling to His grace because I know how much of a evil sinner I am. Like, hey, I'll put gel in my hair and I'll smile at people and be super charming, but really deep down, I'm not that good of a guy, man. I have to cling to His grace, bro. Man. I have to cling to His grace, and I don't want to hijack this podcast, but I want to really allow God to work. I don't want to be the one who changes me. I want God to be the one who changes me. I want the Holy Spirit to be what makes me a better expression of myself. I don't want to take any credit for it. I want to give the glory to God. And I think at the same time, I need to be a little easy on myself. I don't need to beat myself over the head with the hammer and like, oh, you're just disgusting sinner, like start whipping my back like Martin Luther or something. I don't want to go that route. But at the same time, I want to really make an effort to resist the devil, instead of just passively allowing him to fill my mind with filth, and really sow to the spirit more than I sow to the flesh. Bottom line.
Boom. So it's important to have your experience represented here. Every experience, because there's parts of that. There's so many things that I agree with in what you said, and there's so many waves that I'm just not on. But it's the human parts that's like important to me. It's always like, that's why it's important we do it on here, because I tell everybody with like manufactured fucking positivity and like, personal development all going on. It's like, hey, let me see your search history, dog. Like, because everybody's doing it. You know what I mean? And I think everybody's having that experience with like, fuck, and they close their computer and they're like, you know what I mean? Like super, people have a lot of shame behind it. But for me, it's not the Christian perspective that keeps me like away from that part of existence. And when you say, I don't know, when you say you don't know what it is, what part of like what makes people that way, it's our biology.
Yeah.
It's our biology, like the need, like, and for men in our age range, there is, and from 12 until a long time, it's it's to mate and to procreate. And there's a natural urge to be like, I got to get this out. Very natural urge. But the introduction of porn, that stimuli, unprecedented. Like that's what is so dangerous about it. It's so unnatural to be able to scroll for hours, any blonde, brunette, black, Asian, anything you want at your fingertips. That was never supposed to come about. And for me, with my struggle, porn started for me around the same age. Mm-hmm. And for me, it progresses. For me, porn is fun and it gets like the job done, but I cheat and I become super promiscuous. And the older I get, the less things are acceptable to me. Maybe it's because I got way more spiritual, and there's so many, like, if I had to wrap up my spirituality, it's a lot of Buddhist principles and a lot of Christian principles. I spend a lot of time in practicing within the Christian world and faith. So for me, the more spiritual I get, the less things are okay with me. And so cheating, having tons of sex physically stopped working. But porn kept like the edge off of not doing it. And then after a while, and I know people are experiencing this, you start pushing the boundaries. You start pushing what you're watching. You start, if it doesn't become more prevalent, then you're watching shit and you're like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't have been watching this.
Yeah.
Like, it gets dark. I think it's
progressive.
It's progressive. I think it's funny, actually. I think it's very funny, like, especially my situation. It's just like, oh my God, like I've come to the end of my porn rope. You know what I mean? I'm not watching violence or crime or anything, but it's just like, now I'm to the point where like, this is not working for me anymore. Yeah. And I still feel conviction as well. And also, for someone who's essentially married, I'm doing my girl such a disservice because she can never compete. She can never compete with Pornhub. She's well above all that as a human being, but as a sexual being, she can't be everybody and everything. And every sexual,
it's unrealistic.
It's impossible. Mm-hmm. It's impossible, and it feels like it's not fair to her. But for me, it's like, be free. Like I tell young people, like, be free, get it out of your system, do it, because I think it's important to do, especially during your prime sexual years. Like, explore that and get it out. But for me, the older I get, the more things become not okay for my value system, and that's why I've taken sex addiction and sex addiction recovery seriously on a number of occasions.
So hold on, sorry to cut you off, but I'm kind of confused. So you say that your values have changed, mm-hmm. but yet you would also want to you would tell a younger person to be promiscuous?
Not promiscuous, but be free, sexually free, because like something you said stuck out to me. You said every sexual experience you had was bad.
Negative.
And
because it wasn't in the bonds of marriage.
And that's slippery. That's dangerous because
it's biblical.
I understand that, and we can fundamentally disagree. Again, like we can disagree on that. But when you create when you create good or bad relationships, positive or negative relationships to sex, it leads to unhealthy, maladaptive sexual behaviors. And so I theorize, my school of thought is that you don't want to judge your sex life. You don't want to create judgment around it, because then it gets real sticky. Then it gets real sticky. So for me, I don't say good or bad. Even my own like weird stuff is, I wouldn't say good or bad. It's just what am I cool with? What's healthy to me at this point? What's healthy to somebody else? And also I see so many young people get married so young. And I think one of the great things I think that we are able to do culturally is we get to date and get to know our bodies with other people. I get to, and I think doing that is good. So when when I meet my partner, I know she's what I want. And that actually saves me from thinking like, what's over there, because I know what's over there. And the grass is green where you water it. And a sexual relationship is a healthy sexual relationship is something I want to build with this person and grow with this person, as opposed, you know what I mean? And I think that comes with maturity. And culturally, people get married between 27 and 35 now, as opposed to 16, 15.
Like right
away. And I think that's a good thing about our, sexual liberation here, is that you can still explore your body. People are exploring their sexuality. People are exploring their tastes and likes on porn, which can be, in essence, that could be okay, but it takes a turn, and there's not good or bad, but healthy and unhealthy. And I think that's important. I think it's important for people to know, because even with my little one, he'll like grab his wiener, my baby, and it's like, you don't want to say gross, don't do that, because you don't want to create a negative connotation to his genitals, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you get maladaptive behaviors later in life. You know what I mean? So, but you also don't want to oversex your children. Like you said, your parents were very open about it. So you don't want to do that either. But you don't want to make it so like there's a weird thing, because then, and I spent a lot of time in rooms of SAA, Sexaholics Anonymous, people who have had traumatic sexual experiences as children and young people now manifest in other ways. I'm very lucky that mine's just watching weird porn, or watching, not even weird porn all the time, but porn. I'm so lucky that that's it. And I cheated for a number of years. That's the extent of mine. But I've met so many people who've had such negative, drastic experiences earlier in life that now manifests into like a dark thing. So for me, I don't want to say good or bad, healthy. I want to say healthy and unhealthy. And if it's consensual and it's not breaking your value system, then it's healthy, right? And that's not, and maybe that doesn't align with your value system, but I try to look at it like I have my way of thinking about it. But when it comes to other people, all I'm really concerned with is healthy and unhealthy. I don't want people to feel shame about sex, man. That's heavy, dude.
And God doesn't want you to feel shame either, I don't know, Jesse, what do you think about this whole thing?
Well, you guys are going off. There was a lot of points that I wanted to touch on.
I don't get to talk about this ever, so thank you.
No, yeah, and I appreciate you guys' conversation. It's very interesting. One funny thought before I get into all the other stuff was when you were talking about like it's unprecedented, the porn thing, and like, all the different types of things you could watch. I was just thinking like, not so long ago, but let's just say like a couple hundred years ago, if you wanted to like be with an Asian woman, you'd have to like go to Asia. You have to go to
get on a boat,
go to China,
cross the Pacific.
Yeah, just to like have that one experience. And now it's just like, oh, this is what I want right now.
Scroll. What kind of Asian do I want?
Like every single type. Yeah.
Any type.
It's like a thing. So that was a funny thought that I had. But I think one thing, as you both were talking, I find really interesting is because we already have this framework of being in addiction or being in recovery, that it's so easy to apply it to so many different areas of life. You know, so it's like we have terminology to explain what we're experiencing. Whereas like, I think if you were never introduced to any type of form of recovery, it wouldn't seem like you said, it would seem normal. Like everyone's watching porn, and not until that we have this framework of like what's recovery or what's like healthy or what's addiction, that we can finally like pinpoint this and be like, this is actually a problem, even though for the longest time it seemed like completely normal. You know what I mean? Just like how we were in our addictive lives. I in between like the conviction and the freeness, I'm leaning more towards Eric, but that's because I'm not personally convicted. I don't like follow that belief system. You know, I think everybody as a young person like has whatever society is talking about at the time, has that like that whatever spin on sexuality, whether it's positive or negative or whatever. And I do know, not by personal experience, but by like anecdotal experience, that when people are suppressed at a young age, then it comes out in all different types of ways later in life.
But it's even when people are oversexed as well. Like, where sex is too healthy, you know what I mean? Where it's like, and then you're like, what the?
And then you're like, I don't know how to settle down with one person.
Exactly. Then it becomes, it's as raising children, that's probably one of the most challenging parts of it. I don't think my kids any of them are sociopathic or anything like that. But you just want to do the sex thing right. You want to have the conversation right. Because I told my oldest, I said, hey, like this idea of even the word sex may be weird to you, but you're going to spend most of your life thinking about it and motivated by it.
Another thing I wanted to touch upon was the biological aspect of it. So you're talking about this bond that happens, right? It's the oxytocin that's released when you're having this experience with another human being. And that creates that bond specifically for evolutionary purposes so that you can create a child together. But that oxytocin, that bond is not forever. So that, I believe, is why the institution of marriage is so important for the family life, is because that oxytocin, that like reaction, that bond is not like permanent. You know, so before society and religion and all the fucking things that we've created as human beings, you would have that bond, and then you would just go off and like have another mate. Yeah. And then you would just go to a different tribe and have another mate, or whatever the fuck life looked like back then. I have no idea what it looked like. But now the way that we've built our society and the structure of our lives, that bond, that like chemical bond goes away. Yeah. And that's why marriage is there to like keep it together long enough to at least raise a kid. You know what I mean? Because raising kids is a lot of work.
And for me, I never thought a long-term relationship, like, because of my own I had sexual trauma as a kid. I was groomed by this guy and he would send me porn. It was like, I don't put a lot of super value on it because I'm coming out of like the traumatic, like maladaptive behavior of it. Like I'm in the healing phase of that. So doesn't fuck with me. And it actually gives me some answers to some things like, okay, so now I understand. But what I've learned, I never thought being in a long-term relationship could get better as you stay in the relationship. And I think that's, especially now with personal development, growing and healing, being in recovery, all those things make being in a committed relationship fun and exciting, to the idea of growing with a human. Because I don't care what anybody says, the aggressive oxytocin transmission, it dies down because it's aggressive. As you know, like in the beginning, you're like, I can't keep my hands off this person. We have all experienced that.
Oh, isn't that the best?
It's so much fun. And for me, I was addicted to that for a while. I would like date people for 3 months and like have that like insane thing and then move on. You know,
great high.
It's fun. That was addicting to me more so than porn. That was addicting. But to then grow with someone, especially when two people are getting better, not when we're getting, because the old school mentality was you get married, you each get
life
fat,
is over.
You each get fat, and you each, you know what I mean? Like the kids kill you, and like it gets worse. But now we have this personal development is so popular and normal now that you get better as you get older. you make more money, so you stay hot longer. You know what I mean? Like it improves. So appreciating that's the surprising part to me. I'm closer to, and I'm very honest about my relationship. My relationship is better now than it was 5 years ago. Because as we've grown as people, we've grown in maturity with each other, which I never thought that could be a thing. Mm-hmm. And I've talked so much shit about the institution of marriage and like family life because I had my own fucking traumatic experience with my own parents and with whatever happened to me. But coming out of that and being in the healing stages, you're like, oh, this is what it could be like. And building healthy sexual relationship. Most people I don't think know what that even looks like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I'm just at the tip of what I think that looks like.
Just the tip.
Just the tip.
Hey, let's go.
No pun intended.
Let's go.
One thing that was really interesting that I was thinking about, is we're having this discussion about sex, which is pretty cool, man. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Yeah,
on the microphone. It's very
straight
tight.
up, man. I think especially the world today, and even more specifically America, puts sex on a pedestal and makes it more important than it kind of is. You know what I mean? And it becomes almost like an idol to some people. It becomes like one of the most important things in their life when, it's badass. You know what I mean? Like sex is awesome, but
kind of rad.
It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be the rudder on the ship that directs your life.
Yeah.
It really shouldn't be, you know? It's pleasurable. It's awesome. But I think people kind of put it on a pedestal, you
Definitely.
know? You're putting the pussy on the pedestal, my man.
I've definitely felt that. I felt like I've said that to my therapist. I'm like, sex can be exhausting to think like, even in a relationship, to think, what are people thinking about me, right? Like, what do girls think? Do girls still think I'm, even being in a relationship, do girls still think I'm attractive? That's energy. And then like, even trying to have sex with my partner and keep her happy. That's, because for dudes, and they don't say this out loud, but for dudes, how much are you doing for your partner? Like, because if I don't do this, she's not going to fuck me like tomorrow or today. Like I got to, and that's exhausting to even have to think about that. And then if you're watching porn, if you end up watching things, if you end up not liking that experience, now that's exhausting. I'm just like this comedian makes a joke about it. He's like, when you think about jerking off, he's like, stay away from my family and like leave me alone. You know what I mean? Like testosterone's doing push-ups in the back. Like, yeah, you look over there, like fuck that babysitter. Yeah. It's like, no, I don't want to think about this. So it becomes exhausting. I might tell my little one, I'm like, dude, until you're 60 years old, probably older, you're going to be thinking about this.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I try in my spiritual life, I try not to focus on external things because I know they don't work. I know that sex is I'm never going to have enough sex to be like, you know what, my life is perfect. This is not going to work. Neither, like, even though I buy lots of shoes, it's still not going to make it so like this is exactly how I wanted my life to be. And I don't nurture those things. They're like things of the flesh, worldly things, and I'm lucky I don't have to chase that the rest of my life because there's people who will spend their entire life chasing all those things, thinking that it's working, but never having X, Y, and Z to fulfill them. So, man, it's fucking tiring. But you see culturally why it's so important because on social media, how many sexy women make billions of dollars for whatever industry, the fitness industry, high-waisted leggings with big fat ass. Girls who don't look like that are going to buy those leggings, dude, or buy that fucking protein powder. She didn't get like that with protein powder, dog. Yeah. Like, and for I wouldn't even say, I don't think men are driven by male attractive men, but how many things do you do because of what women will think of you? It's a lot. It's a huge piece of us, which I think part of it is normal, but it gets tiring.
Well, some would say that is the power behind or the force behind like all like
motivation.
You know what I mean? Like every fucking crazy inventor who like toiled.
I'm gonna
for,
get so much pussy from this.
You know what I mean? Like,
what did Dave Chappelle say in his stand-up? Where he's like, men don't like nice cars. Men like nice cars because women like nice cars.
Yeah,
like
I'll sleep on a mattress on the floor forever. You know, I'm okay with it. My girl's like she doesn't like it, so I'm like, okay, I'll put the mattress.
Yeah,
on.
other than that, like making the nicer things. Like, I feel like that's what drives us men. And I'm not. This is not like a men versus women. Like men create all the things. None of that shit. But like, what drives our society or what drives like our motivation to do things is the other sex. You know, it's like
to
100%.
You know, it's like to get what I desire or to meet someone of higher status, I need to do all this extra fucking shit, and then that's how we keep like moving forward.
Yeah,
keep trying to like
keeps
one up each other.
Yeah, it's the reason why I go to work every day. Honestly, no, and I don't mean to like go out and get laid or anything like that, but like
provide and
I know I'm just gonna be 100% honest here, man. Like I get up and go to work, and I bought my truck, and I try to be as successful as possible. I got sober to be the man that I want to be for my future wife. I know that sounds kind of extreme and crazy, but that's kind of the truth,
totally,
you know?
it's
like,
all good.
Like the reason why I go to the gym, of course it makes me feel good. You know what I mean? Like,
endorphins,
dude,
endorphins,
I feel great, you know, but I want to be like, what's up? I'm going to provide for you, right?
I'm so manly.
Oh my gosh. But,
just go up to the, what's up, brother? All fucking jacked.
But yeah, man. See, so that's why, like, it always takes like 15, 20 minutes to get churning on a podcast. But this is a dope conversation I was hoping to have, because, you know, and I don't think we're speaking from like a misogynistic point of view. This is just an honest man's point of view. Actually, from men who are probably just trying to be healthy men. You know, we're just trying not to be shitty about it. At least I am. Actually, I know we're all just trying not to be shitty about it. But we're gonna wrap up, guys.
Okay.
Do you? I don't know if you're a social media guy. Do you want to plug anything, or do you have
honestly,
any last message?
So not on social media.
I deleted everything. Everything. I deleted everything. It was unhealthy for me, and
It's unhealthy for me too.
And so I just, you know, I'm doing great, by the way. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But you have anything you want to give people to part with?
Oh, are you still trying to do that channel thing? I don't know.
I'm putting that on pause. I'm putting that on pause. You know, I'm really busy right now. You know, I'm sometimes a little too ambitious, you know, and I need to chill out.
Me too.
Well, one thing Patrick does do is he surfs a lot and he takes a lot of cool videos. So I'm assuming at some point those will be a thing.
Yeah, maybe I'll get an Instagram or something like that. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
There you go.
But if I do got a shout out, glory to God all day.
Hey, let's go. All right, we're out of here. You want to plug your stuff real quick?
People will find me if they want to find me.
Eric_Big Mood Coach. It's supposed to get a rhythm, bro. Anyway, we're wrapping it up.
Time.
All right, we're out of here.
Later.
Vultures circling above, they all in a piece, but they don't even know my name. Won't get even the swipe for the train. Cloudy, ride to the airport, gotta get right for the plane. Custom, smell like kush, wifey hand in a tish. Yes, and I got no shame. Some line to shine, with a broke you, they got no game. Waking up next to the skats, can't go home to a dame. Nah, tell themselves they're the same. Really though, who can they blame? Now I don't blame them either. They just wanna play the game and they're eager still. I don't wanna know you. I'm busy. You don't even know thyself. Grizzy, out for the dough.